Okay, in this video I'm going to go over what's new in MayaStar for MayaStar 5.0. Let's see. Okay, so in the MayaStar 5.0, what are the changes? Well, the main changes are that I've added the Bento Bones, and I've added them to the appearance sliders so that they react to the appearance sliders just as they do in Second Life. So for those people who are not going to be using the Bento Bones, who just want to rig to the regular skeleton or the original skeleton, that will not change. You do not have to rig to the Bento Bones if you do not want to. You do not have to use the Bento skeletons if you do not want to. You can use the original skeletons and your original workflow. You don't even have to upgrade to MayaStar 5.0. You can stay with MayaStar 4.51, which was the last one before MayaStar 5.0, just to make that clear. Eventually, you'll probably want to upgrade as time goes on, as more and more updates for MayaStar come out. You'll probably eventually want to upgrade because if I add new features, I'm probably not going to make it retroactive to add features to. It is too difficult to maintain two different versions. So if I do add more features in the future, I won't be adding them to MayaStar 4.51. Just like I added a new BVH exporter, but I'll go over that in a minute. So, okay, So MayaStar, here's the menu, and it looks pretty similar to the way it did before. The only real change to the front of the menu is I changed just the wording slightly. Instead, it used to say collision bones select. Now it says collision C bones select, and normal M bones select. I did that because, with the M bones, most people refer to the M bones as M bones, the original bones of the skeleton, or the original bones that you normally rig to for just regular rigged mesh, what is called classic rig. Classic rigging, not fitted mesh. And then fitted mesh came along, and even though the collision volume bones were there, which are called C bones for short, or collision bones, people started to rig to those for fitted mesh. They weren't ever really meant to be rigged to. It was a sort of a hack that somebody, I can't remember, Red Polly, I believe it was, who came up with the idea of using the C-bones to rig to for fitted mesh, which was called liquid mesh at first, but then it's settled on fitted mesh. So, okay. So, what's new? Mainly the changes have been here in the Activate MayaStar avatar, and I've already gotten this question a couple of times. People were a little bit confused. I might change this menu up in the next update so that the animation is separate from the Activate avatar, because it seems to be causing a little bit of confusion. Okay. These are the avatars that you activate, and you have to activate an avatar first. Either the female original, that's the original skeleton, or the male original. These are the original male and female avatars that came in skeleton that came with MayaStar originally, from the first one till 4.51. So these are the original avatars. So you can upgrade to MayaStar 5.0 and still use the original avatars that were always in MayaStar, and the original skeleton that was always in MayaStar. And then if you want to animate them, so you have to activate them first. You have to activate the female first. And then once you have the avatar in the scene, then you can animate original female. That was causing some confusion. People were clicking without activating an avatar first. They were clicking animate avatar, animate original female, and they were getting an error because the avatar was not in the scene. So I probably need to put that in a separate menu so that people don't get as confused. Let's see. Okay, so that's and this is the animation rig that pops up, and you can animate. But you can find about that out in the previous video. I'm just going over what's new in MayaStar. Okay, so let's start a new scene. Okay, so those are the originals. Now here's the bento down here. So let's, like I said, you always have to activate an avatar first, either female or male. So we'll activate the female bento. And here's the female bento avatar. And you can see there's a whole bunch of new bones on it. Okay, and then let's go to the channel box, and there's a bunch of new layers. Right now, what we're seeing is the Bento Head and the Bento Eyes. I call them the Bento Eyes because whenever you make, basically if you're going to make eyes for a Bento Head, you're going to want to rig them so that they're rigged to the alt eye bones, the M face alt eye bones. I left it, all right, let me see if I can get them here. And the outliner, drag the outliner over. Oops, come on. There we go. Okay. There are a lot, a lot more bones that's been added to the Bento Avatar. There was like 52 bones originally, including the collision volume bones, or the collision bones, and now there's like 156 bones total. So there's a lot more bones. So here are the alt bones. the alt eye bones. M face alt right and M face alt left. So if you're going to be, say, making a bento head, they're calling, you're going to want to rig eyes to those alt eyes, because the alt eye bones are programmed in the LAD to move with the sliders properly. The regular eye bones, since we couldn't break any previous content, don't necessarily move correctly with the bento bones, because if they did, they would break content, and they would break the avatar's regular eyes. So that's one thing. If you're making a bento head, make sure that when you create the eyes and you rig them, that you're rigging them to the M face alt eye right and M face alt left. Okay. So so that's why I have two sets of eyes. And you use the same appearance editors, and they work for both the original and the bento skeletons. And so, like, we'll go here and we'll go to probably the slider that gave Matrice and I the biggest headaches. Probably Matrice. Matrice did like 98% of the programming for the Avatar LAD, which is what controls the appearance sliders in Second Life. And let me zoom in on the face. And you can see the face is changing, and that's all due to let me hide the bento head. And you'll see the bones moving. You can see the bones moving. That had to all be programmed in, and Matrice did it all. And with a lot of feedback from Gaia, and I helped test out, helped test them out and gave, suggestions, or I would make little, he would do the initial, settings, then I would test them out, and then I might make some adjustments, and I'd give it back to him, and then he would make the final adjustments. I'm sure he got a lot of input from Gaia. In fact, I know he did. So, so as you can see, the bones all move, and you can see the eyes moving. see how the eyes move slightly? That's to make sure that the alt eyes move correctly with the head as you're changing it. So at least Bento Heads, and there's still the default, the original head default that is not using the Bento Bones to change shape. Let's see. So I'll turn on the Bento Head and you can see there's a bit difference between the two. So they don't work exactly like the original. We knew we could never get them exactly like the original. Although that seems a bit more off than I was expecting it to. Maybe I might have a morph inverted on that. I'll have to check that out. Anyway, so we have the Bento Head, and it responds to all the sliders, you know, just like they do in Second Life, so that when you're rigging, say, a Bento Head, you'll be able to see what's going on, so you'll be able to adjust the weights much better. You know, so they're all there, and this is the Bento Head, and they all respond just like that. Let's see. I'm trying to think. Okay, another thing that has been changed is I've added a new exporter. We have the original VVH exporter from Samantha Patterson, and it's 1.5. And 1.5, let me go ahead and go animate Bento Female. Okay, and now the animated Bento Female works. Now this animation rig is not the greatest animation rig. You know, I don't know that much about, I'm very much a beginner at animation in Maya. This is just a basic animation rig. It's a full body IK, automatically generated. I had to create something that would work over all versions of Maya, from my old version Maya, which is 8.0, which is from 2007, all the way through 2016. This should work with Maya 2017. I've had people tell me already that Maya 2017 works with Maya 4.51. I mean MayaStar 4.51. And so I'm sure MayaStar 5.0 will work with Maya 2017 as well. So I needed to create a basic animation rig that would work for all of those versions in Maya. For Maya. It's by far not the best rig that you can absolutely have. So feel free to make your own rig and save it, so that, you know, if you really get into animation, you're going to probably want to make your own rig. But if you're going to be making basic animations, you can do that. You can do that. You know, the Bento Avatars, the fingers are rigged. You know, one of the things about the Bento Avatars is, instead of having just 2 skeletons in the scene, it actually has 3 skeletons in the scene. The original skeleton is under avatar skeleton. This is a locator. This green thing is a locator, and that's what you'll have rigged your mesh to. And don't rig your mesh while it's in. How can I put this? You don't want to rig your mesh probably while it's in the animated avatar. You can have it rigged previous to that, and then click on Animate Avatar, and then you'll be able to see what your clothes, if you're making animations for your particular outfit, you'll be able to see how you can move it in the animation by clicking after rigging it in the regular avatar or the regular Bento avatar, and then go Animate Female or Animate Male. and then you can move it and see how it, and make your animations that way. Okay, so, so then there's this one, which has it's a M pelvis, it says hip. That's the skeleton that actually is, the animation is exported from. Then you have the animation skeleton, and that's the skeleton you actually create your keyframes on. And that's the skeleton that this rig is. I just clicked on the rig right here, that this rig is connected to. So that it's this animation skeleton that is driving this, and it drives, driving meaning it controls this skeleton, which is the one that gets exported, and it drives this skeleton so you can actually see. See, the avatar itself here is actually rigged to this skeleton, which is, I had to change the names automatically to original, at least the M bones, or I'll say original. So, because the animation skeleton and this skeleton do not have any collision volume or collision bones in it. You can technically animate collision volumes, or, well, their technical name, correct name is collision volume. That's what the Lindens call it. Everybody else calls them either C-bones or collision bones. You can technically animate collision bones, but I wouldn't if I were you, because it's incredibly problematic. They don't rotate correctly. You gotta do all sorts of, well, they rotate correctly. They don't move correctly if you do translation animations. And so they are very, very problematic to work with as far as animations. You can do it, but they're a major, major pain in the butt. And they're not officially supported, even though Linden Lab is not going to disable being able to animate to collision bones. They might disable it sometime in the future. They have not been officially sanctioned by Linden Lab to animate toward, although they're probably not going to disable it ever. But if they find a reason to disable it in the future, they will. So it's one of those things where they're like, we don't have any plans to disable it. We don't think we'll disable it, but we're not going to say we won't ever disable it. Because if it does start causing problems, they will disable it, and anything uploaded with animations will, they'll just disable being able to upload it in the future. So, but they are very, very, very problematic and a pain in the butt to animate. You have so many new bones, I don't think anybody will ever really have a need to animate with them. So that's why I didn't make them a part of the animation skeleton, because they just add so many more bones to worry about. So this animation skeleton is only made to animate the official M bones. Now all the new Bento bones are also M bones. But when you click normal M bone select, it does not select any of the new Bento bones, but we'll get to that in just a second. Okay, so and if you're animating the original skeleton, there's only 2 skeletons in the scene, and nothing has changed as far as animating those bones. And let's see, let's Control Z, get this back. Okay. Actually, I'm going to start a new scene, because this is just supposedly a brief, a brief video to go over what's new, not to go over how to animate and all that kind of stuff yet. Okay, so let's activate the male Bento, and then let's animate the male Bento. Okay. Now to get back to these, what is the difference between 1.5 and 1.6? The second one was also written by Samantha Patterson. The big difference between the two is 1.5 with 1.5, the only bone you can translate, so now there's two different types of translation. There's rotation translation, which is just rotating the bones, and that's rotation. The bones just rotate. That's rotation animation. And then you have translation animation. And with Bento export 1.5, it can only translate this basically, which moves the avatar in three-dimensional space, and it can you can animate it also by rotating. Okay, so well, that was interesting. Didn't Control Z back. That's very interesting. Control Z doesn't always work, it seems like. See, I guess I'm going to, let's just start this over. Control Z doesn't always want to work. So let's do, let's go back to the female. Okay, we'll go back to the female. And let's animate the female. Okay. So 1.5 is good for rotation animations, and the only one that you can do translation animations is this down here. That, is animating this. It's a move avatar control. Move avatar control. That's this one with the arrows. If you don't want to, if you're making your own animation rig, you can also animate in three-dimensionals, translation animation, the HIK, because this is just the HIK is simply parented or constrained by the avatar motion control. There's just a parent constraint on that, so that's just moving that. So if you did without this, you could deleted this, then you would have to move this. But since you can't see it, you'd have to come out here in the outliner and select it in order to be able to move it. So that's why I've created this controller, so that you can move it easier. These arrows on the ground. Okay, now for that out of the way. Close this. Never have this open and this open at the same time, because you can't export out. You can't decide I'm going to change and export out of this, because when you open up this, now when you export, if you try to export with this, it's going to use the settings for this. So never have them open at the same time. I'm just going to close both just to be safe, and then open up this. So, but you can close this and then open up this, and I added a script, a mail script that resets things so that now it'll export this out correctly, and be this one. Okay, so always close it and then open up this one. Okay, now you can animate. Now this one, 1.6, you can rotate and translate any bone. You can translate any bone you want to with translation animations. So if you wanted to make her eyeballs, pop out, in an animation for whatever reason, even though there's not a control rig for the eyes, you could come here to the animation skeleton, expand it, come here to the left and right eyeball, and then come here to the first frame, switch to your animation, come here to animate now, and go to set key. One thing you want to make sure is that full body IK keys are set, and all manipulator handles and keyable attributes are set. Current time is set, and then you would, like I said, you select those eyes, you hit apply, and you see it makes a red mark. Move this out of the way. Come here to frame 48. You can make your frames as long. Like I said, this is just a quick video. I have other videos that show you how to animate. Click apply. Come here to 26. Boing. Click apply. And now you've just made a translation animation. And so that would be an animation. And that's a translation animation. So that's a translation animation. Could have come here and rotated the eyeballs, or actually let's do this. I'll make it look left. And I'm going to hit the S key because that's the short. Oh, I'll just apply here. Okay, and then look right. I just hit the S key because that happens to be my hotkey for animations. And yours might be different, or you may not have a hotkey set up, so you'd have to hit apply with this window open. And so it'd be like, and then there's a rotation. So that's a rotation and a translation. So that animation you would have to animate or export with 1.6. Let's see, and this one works just like the other one. You can ignore because I made some minor changes to Smith Patterson's exporter, so that you don't have to select the bone. What it will do is it will automatically, when you click apply, it will select the hip bone before it exports. It'll automatically do that as soon as you hit apply or OK. Apply or OK. So you don't have to worry about doing it. I did that because I was always forgetting to select the hip bone, and say, oh, you don't have a hip bone selected, or it wouldn't upload, and I'd be, oh, that's right, I forgot to select the hip bone. So I just did that so that it does automatically. Key range, you can either do it keyed, which would automatically select keyed range, which we did it on the first and last one, or I most of the time do 1 through 48. You can do 1 through 300, 1 through 3000. It's up to you. This is just a quick little thing. I have keyframes on all the frames set, but that can cause, because this is a short animation, that's fine. This is a sample rate for exporting. If you have a very, very long animation, if you have this set to all frames, it's going to be a very, very big file and take very long to upload. And you might reach your limit to what you can upload in Second Life. So to make the file smaller, you can have it export a keyframe on every 2 frames. So that'd be 1 keyframe, 1, 2 keyframes, 3, 4, another keyframe, and you can see that would cut it in half. Or you can set it to every 5. Keyframes, the more keyframes, the more accurate, the more it's going to look like the animation in Maya. I believe the frame rate in Second Life is 30 frames per second. So this would just be a little over a second animation. So it's kind of playing in slow motion here. Although you can set your keyframe, in newer versions, I believe you come in here, Playback Speed, and select it to real time. That's 30 frames per second. That's how it would look like in Second Life. Although it might be, let's look at the preferences real quick. It's under, or at least in the older versions, time slider. Where is it? Oh yeah, here it is. Playback speed. I believe in Second Life I thought it was 30 frames per second. I'll have to clear that up. Real time is 24. And so when we set this to real time, that's 24 frames per second. I'll have to do some research and find out from Veer what is the actual supposed playback speed in Second Life. If it's 30, you'd come here to Other, and you would change this to 30. And click Save. And since this is already set, right mouse click, playback speed, real time. There you go. You can see it's a little bit faster. Okay, so that's the difference between 1.6 and 1.5. The male avatar is a bit trickier. I have to figure out a workflow for the male avatar. It's a bit trickier to animate with 1.6. If you're doing the face animations, it's fine. But if you're going to be doing other type of animations, say you want the arms to stretch out for comical, cartoonish type animation, you might have a problem animating the male avatar. I haven't quite gotten a workflow for that. And I'll tell you why, which is another problem people have been coming up with, or been coming to me with. Okay, let me start a new scene. And I'm going to activate the male Bento avatar. Okay, now, and this is true for the regular avatar as well. Although the male avatar in MayaStar. Okay, if you come here, now this is just for the Bento avatar. The same problems are in the regular avatar too, the regular male avatar too. I just set it up in Bento slightly different. In the original avatar, there's 2 sliders. In the Bento avatar, I made it 1. Okay. Now, you see, these are the sliders. These are actually what the appearance editor controls, is these sliders. Okay, so when you're moving these, it's actually moving these. And so I don't have, like in the regular appearance editor, you have, where you can choose between male and female. That's actually a slider. There's actually no difference. The only difference is female is 0, male is 100. Same exact thing as here to here. It's actually a slider. But instead of having you be able to do 50%, which would be halfway between male and female, they figured you're just either going to be one or the other. And the male avatar, let me hide the body. Okay, so 0, so here's the female male. See the translate over here? 1 is 100. See, this is 100. 0 is the female skeleton, and the female skeleton is actually the default skeleton in Second Life. There's 2 major files that control the skeleton. The avatar skeleton XML file, which defines where the bones are, and all the bone settings. And that's the default skeleton, and that's the female skeleton. So if you ever open up that thing, you'll notice that those all match up. All these match up. Okay. Now, the avatar LAD, which is the avatar LAD XML, that controls the sliders. What happens to the slide bones when you move the sliders? That's how these are controlled, how they're defined, and that's the program that controls those. Well, the male avatar is simply taking the female bones, and the avatar lab then moves those bones into position where they would be at 100% or 1. And you can see watch the bones move. Okay, so that can cause a problem when you're doing translation animations, because the bones will already moved. You know, so I got to figure out our workflow for the male avatar if you're going to be doing translation animations. Probably the best thing is just to activate the female bento skeleton. Even though you have the male skeleton in the scene, just activate the female bento skeleton, or the have the male avatar activated in the scene, but then click animate bento female, or if you have the original male in the scene, click animate original female in the scene. Pretty sure that would work. I know it would work for the bento. At least I think it would. So, because, you know, so, let's see. Okay, now this body changes shape when you go from male to female. The upper body and the legs are the original skeleton. The only thing I did is I rigged the fingers to the finger bones. That's the only real difference for the upper body and lower body. But you'll notice that it turns into the male when you switch it to that. That's because this body change is done with morphs, you know, or blind shapes in second line. And you still have the default head, and you can see it is also switched to the male. And that's just changing with the morphs. Okay. And so I made a bento head, and now if you watch, if I switch this, the bento head does not change with morphs. It just changed with the bones changing position and scale. And so you can still see she has the male head. It's just the bones are now in the female positions. So that's the bento head. And there you go. So now you got a woman with, nipples. Well, they're the male nipples. They're not the female nipples. No, they are the female nipples. No, they're not. They're not the male. They're the male nipples. They're male nipples. She just happens to have breasts. Warning, adults only. Okay. Let's put her back to male very quickly. There you go. Male nipples. See, they're the male nipples. She just happened to grow breasts really quick. But no male nipples. They were the male nipples on the female breasts. Okay. Okay, the other thing that has changed. Okay, the other thing you don't really want to in the bento is the sliders don't work when you're in animation for bento. The sliders do work fairly well, and you can still move them around with the regular original skeleton, even if you're animating. So that's one of the differences between the two. Okay, one of the things I did want to show is, oh come on, there we go, is I added some sliders, the eyebrow shaped sliders. Everybody seems to forget about the eyebrow shaped sliders. Because they're not in the normal place for changing your shape. They're underneath your, if you go into Second Life, they're underneath your inventory. You go to what you're wearing, and there's a hair, you know, the bulb cap that people wear to hide their hair. Well, you go to edit that. And then you go you go to edit that, and then you go to eyebrows, and under the eyebrows, there's the eyebrow shapes. You go to that, and that has sliders, just like the regular shape sliders. And with that, you can adjust the size. Oh yeah, I thought it was on the bento. Oh no, it's on the. There's the bento head. You can change. Oh, that's the height. You can change the eyebrow size, and you can change the eyebrow height. I don't know why this. I think this should go. This slider should have been opposite, but this whoever created the original sliders, which the original, I guess because the sliders, the eyebrow sliders, only work on the default Linden Lab skeleton. And so if you were wearing a skin, the eyebrow size sliders don't work because those use an alpha. So if you're not wearing a skin and you're wearing the old Linden Lab skins, this slider would work because it was using an alpha. But any new skin that you're wearing, they don't use the alphas, so that slider was made useless by custom skins that people make. But the height slider still worked, and people just sort of forgot about these sliders. We asked if we could simply move them so they would be in the better spot, but it turned out it wasn't possible. So anyway, and the slider works, and it works like this in Second Life. You think going to the right would make it higher and going to the left would make it lower, but Linden Lab, the way they originally set it up, somebody must have been dyslexic, and they decided to do the opposite for some reason. So left is higher, right is lower. Okay, this controls the arch, so you can have a shallower arch, or a more arched arch, a higher arched eyebrows. And this works for custom skins in Second Life as well, at least on the default avatar. And since we added them to the Bento Bones, it works with Bento now. So Bento Heads, you can do this. And every video I've seen where people talk about Bento Heads, they always forget about these few sliders, these 4 sliders, that will affect Bento Head eyebrows. And then you have the point. So you can see how dramatically it changes the eyebrows. And let me show you on the female real quick. You see, don't save. Bento female. Let me close. This was for the male. I'm going to open the female. Avatar appearance editor. Go to eyes. Zoom in on her. Okay, come down here to the eyes. Eyebrow size. So you'll play with that a little bit. And it depends on where they draw their eyebrows. See, these eyebrows are fairly low, and they're fairly flat. They're just thin. If somebody had originally created their eyebrows to be a little bit more arched, it would affect it slightly differently. It's still going to move the bones the same, but you can tell it, So that's the eyebrow size, makes them a little bit thicker, a little bit thinner. Default, I'm not sure what the default is. The default is 0. Eyebrow height. You can see how raising the eyebrows is going to make your eyelids have a little bit more area on the eyebrows. And eyebrow arch. So you can make them flatter, or a little more arch, a little more rounder. And then, of course, the points. So you can play with that. So you can really, the points really make a big difference. So if you've always wanted a little bit more pointy or arched eyebrows, and we tried to make them match what the system eyebrows are doing. And I actually created these. These are the few sliders that I actually did by myself, and that I created these. So I try to match the system eyebrows as close as possible. See if we hide the Bento head and show the default head. That's what they do. And these are done with morphs. This is the. So if you're in Second Life and you have a default avatar and you've never known about these sliders for the eyebrows, this is how they would work. This is how they do work. You're just not used to them. Oh, see, this doesn't work because this is a custom skin, and it's done with changing the alpha, how much an alpha layer is visible or not. But this is a custom skin, so it doesn't do it, and I haven't set it up to do it, to handle it anyway. But yeah, this is what it would look like. So if you've ever wanted to mess with your eyebrows in Second Life, going, oh, I'm not quite happy with those eyebrows, I wish they were a little more arched on the outer edges, you can do that. And then here's the Bento head. So, okay, so those are the eyebrow sliders. Let's see, I think that's about it. Oh, okay, now that I was going to show you this. Sorry, this is turning into a 46-minute long, supposed to be a quick video. Yeah, right. Let's see. Okay, so when you click on these, when you click normal bone select, or normal M bone select, because those are the M bones, this is going to select just the original M bones. So these are some of the new M bones, and you see they're not select. They're light blue, or darker blue. The lighter blues are the original skeletons. Yeah. Now I'm holding down the control key and clicking those. Now they're selected. Hold down the control key to deselect it again. So yeah, so that's the normal bone select. It's only going to select the original skeleton. It's not going to select the new bones. And then of course the collision bones, it selects the collision bones. So there it's selecting the collision bones, and then you click the normal bone select. So if you're still doing okay, this is important. This is very important. So even if you're not asleep yet, if you haven't clicked the stop button, this is very important. Once a Bento is released into the main viewer, into Linden Labs default viewer, you will no longer have to add the bones, all the M bones or normal bones or M bones to the skin cluster. If you're doing classic rigging for like the 5 standard sizes, you rig to the original skeleton bones. You know, the original skeleton bones are the normal M bones. Those are the original bones in the skeleton. You can see none of the face bones are selected. And you used to have, and you would have, right now, before Bento is put into the default viewer, you had to have all the original M bones in the skin cluster. You had to rig to, you know, even if you were making a hat, you had to have all the bones in the skin cluster. You couldn't just come here and rig to the M head bone, create a hat, and rig to the M bone, and you know, you had to rig to all the M bones. You know, you could technically rig to the M head bone, and then in MayaStar go, where you had to add bones to skin cluster. And this is actually the wrong settings. You want that. Lock weights 0. Use geometry off. Drop off rate doesn't matter at this point because you're locking the weights. Locking the weights to 0 means any bones you're adding to the skin cluster will not have any weight on them, but they'll be in the skin cluster. So if you wanted to say, make a fitted mesh hat, you would select and rig first to the M head bone, which would mean the hat is weighted 100% to the M head bone, and then you would come in MayaStar, and you would go collision bone select your hat if it wasn't already selected, add bones to skin cluster, apply, and that would, oh, I'm sorry, okay. Say you wanted to rig a fitted mesh hat. Create a hat, put it on her. You would select the head bone and make sure your hat is selected. Do a quick smooth bind, apply it, apply with the settings. And now you want to export it out. You would have your hat selected. You click normal bone select. You would come here to add bones to skin cluster. Oh, that's because I hadn't locked. Make sure lock weights, and that's 0. Hit apply. It's giving me an error because I don't have anything. I don't have anything rigged or selected. And then you would export selection and export out your DAE file. So fitted mesh bones all had to have all the original bones that were in the original skeleton, all the original M bones in the skin cluster, otherwise it wouldn't upload. Once Bento, I know it's taken me a long time to get there. Once Bento is released in the viewer, in the Lab default viewer, you will no longer have to have all the original bones in the skin cluster. You can just rig to the bones that you want to rig to. Like right now, you can just rig to the collision bones that you want to rig to. So if you wanted to make a hat, you could just rig it to the head bone so that it changes size when somebody makes their head bigger or smaller. You just rig to the head bone. And then you would just, once you rig to the head bone, you were done. You could then go directly to export selection. Select your hat and export selection, and you were done. Much simpler, much easier, much less to worry about and get wrong when you go to upload. So that's going to be a huge thing, that you no longer have to have all the original M bones, so you won't have to worry about adding bones to the skin cluster, so that's going to be great. Now you can do that right now. You can do that right now if you upload using the Bento viewer, the test viewer, or the Bento release candidate. You can upload that way right now. So if you were making fitted mesh and you don't want to bother with the M bones, you can make fitted mesh. You don't have to use the Bento bones. You can use just the collision volume bones that you want. And you don't have to add anything to the skin cluster. And you can export out as a DAE, and you can upload as long as you're using the Bento viewer. And you can, once it's uploaded, anybody can wear it, even if they're not using a Bento viewer, as long as you were just rigging to the collision volume bones. And you can do that if you were doing, say you were making rigging for the 5 standard sizes, and you're rigging for the classic mesh, the classic 5 standard sizes using classic rigging, it's called. Classic rigging is rigging to the M bones. The M bones don't change scale. They're not fitted mesh. They're gonna, like you're making something for the 5 standard sizes. Now you can just select the bones that you want to rig to. So if you're rigging, say, hands, say you're rigging a pair of gloves for the 5 standard sizes. Actually, let's see, I think you can rig to just the M hand bones, or the M bones, the finger bones and all that. And it will change size with the hands. So you just pick the hands. You just pick one glove and you rig it to the fingers. You pick the other glove and you rig it to the fingers. And you don't have to rig to the rest of the pelvis or the arm bones or this or that. And you can just upload using the Bento viewer. And you're done. So that's awesome. So if you're rigging to classic rig, 5 standard sizes, you can just, for a shirt or a bra, you could just rig to the few bones that you want to rig to, the few M bones that you want to rig to. Makes it much simpler, much easier, less confusing. Just upload using the Bento test viewer right now. And like I said, once it's uploaded, as long as you're rigging to just the original skeleton bones, the M bones, the original ones, these that are lighter blue, for the normal bone select, just these, anybody in any viewer can wear it. It will look fine, even though you uploaded it with the Bento viewer. If you rigged, say, a pair of gloves, and you rigged it to the hand bones, you know, this is let's go to left hand. Say you rigged a pair of gloves to the hand bones. Go here to the other, oops, this is in the way. Cancel. And you can see it better. Say you rigged. And you select the wrist, and you selected hierarchy. Say you made a pair of gloves, and you rigged it to those finger bones, and uploaded it with the Bento viewer. Only people with Bento viewers would be able to see the gloves correctly and wear the gloves correctly, because only the Bento viewer has the Bento bones. Okay, but if you were rigging something, oops, you know, say the elbow and shoulder, you know, say you did a piece of armor, you know, and you rigged it to those you could upload, you know, just rig to those two bones, upload with the Bento viewer, and then anybody, no matter what viewer they were using right now, would be able to see it, and it would work just fine. So, and you can do the same thing with the collision volumes, because everybody has the collision volume bones, or the collision bones. I've been talking to Veer so much that he calls them collision volumes, because that's what officially their name is. The collision bones are. Like, there's a collision bone there. And to Veer, that's a collision volume bone. So please forgive me if I say collision volume. So yeah, you can just rig to that. Use the Bento viewer the Bento viewer to upload a bone rig just to that, just the collision volume bones or bone, and anybody can see it, no matter what viewer they were using. So if you're doing fitted mesh and you want to get rid of that step of having to add bones to the skin cluster, just upload your mesh using the Bento test viewer or the Bento release candidate, and then like I said, once Bento is released into and added to the default viewer for Linden Lab, then you can upload with that viewer. It will take just a day or two, I'm sure, and Firestorm will allow it. You know, within a, you know, if there are third-party viewers that are not being updated, then yeah, those won't be able to upload, because they still have the old restriction in the viewer that you have to have the original bones. But Firestorm is they're on the ball. They're very good at updating, and in fact they're on top of it. They don't have a test viewer released to the public yet for Bento. I don't know when that's going to happen. They want to kind of wait. They've been saying they kind of want to wait until they know that Linden Lab is going to release the candidate, and they'll either do it the same day that the Bento releases the Bento into the main viewer, their default viewer, or they might do it. Maybe they might do it slightly before, but probably not. But I have access to their test viewer for Bento, and they're on top of it. So Firestorm will be right there as soon as Linden Lab releases it. You'll be able to upload a Firestorm. I'm sure within hours. You know, other viewers like Singularity, I don't know how often they're being updated. They'll probably be updated within a few days or a week or two. But other older viewers, third-party viewers that are either nobody's working on, or they just simply have a much smaller team, or maybe it's only 1 or 2 people who are doing the viewer, it may take them days, weeks, months before they're updated, if they ever do get updated. But anyway, so that's pretty much an hour-long intro into what's new with MayaStar 5.0. It's a little bit longer because it's a bit more complicated with Bento. So I hope you made it through. I'm sure many of you paused it and said, I'll come back, and came back a day or 2 later. So, alrighty, we'll see you in the next video. I guess that's about it. Have a great day. Thanks. Bye-bye.